Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Nate here, and I am creating my first official Nano Reef Tank channel video here. I'm just in my condo in Charlestown and got all my stuff here, but what I just set up is actually one of my old BioCube tanks that I used to have. And sorry, I have the front camera on, so it's kind of hard to film. Probably should do the other way. But what I wanted to show you was I am just getting this started. I actually used to have this set up just with some fish in the past. I'm actually going to go corals. I'm going to actually try to go for really nice corals in terms of getting the chemistry right. So I want to talk about kind of the basic setup here and what I plan to do. And then also what you can expect to see over the months if you want to join in on the channel, the fun. So one thing I got today, I kind of was an impulse buy, but I decided I was going to set up a quarantine tank. And so this is just it's actually meant for betta fish. I think it's a three gallon tank that is not connected to the BioCube, obviously. You probably could turn this into a little mini sump, but I think it's better to have this separate so that if something, when I'm buying corals or fish or something's going wrong in here, I can save whatever is having issues down here. So with that being said, I kind of have to set up a separate system altogether, and I did I'll go over everything in the tank right now, but I did go ahead and take some of the live sand in there and put it down there, but there's no heater in here yet. There's no filter. There's not really anything happening here, so it's just cool stagnant water, except for like the LED lighting here, which you can see I get this pretty interesting remote. So I think in terms of its purpose and scale and size, it fits pretty nicely down there. I originally was going to have a big bucket, a full-size bucket to keep under here, but I found that there was no clearance in the top. So I would literally, there was maybe a centimeter clearance. So I ended up bringing the shelf down and going for a mini bucket, which is okay in terms of water changes. I want to say it's probably like a 5 or 6 gallon bucket. What does this say? I don't know where it tells you how much it is, but it doesn't really matter. I guess it's about 5 or 6, probably 5 gallons, I'd say. This is about a 3, so it took maybe 3 or 4. I don't know, but anyways, and so in order to get this running, or in order to get into here, you can see I have about maybe 2 inches of clearance. I do have to pull it out, which really is not the best option, but it's not something I'm going to use as much. It's going to be a backup reserve I'm going to run and cycle and get to a point and just have here underneath. And so that's kind of my quarantine I'm going to set up for when I get into the coral and the saltwater game. Like I said before, in my old place, when I bought this BioCube, I did have some clownfish in here, and I bought some anemones at the time, and they did good, and I ended up moving, so I ended up giving to a friend. I don't think anything died at the time, and I have had lots of bigger tanks in the past. I've had a 100-gallon tank, a 55-gallon tank, I think a 70-gallon. And I've done cichlids, I've done saltwater, I've done freshwater. And so this really is going to be one of the biggest challenges for me in terms of using the BioCube for what it's really meant for, and that is nano reef and setting up a really cool system for getting a couple of fish in here. I'll probably get a couple of clownfish, and maybe some tank cleaners. Just it's more about the corals in this tank, less about the fish. So with that comes a lot of parameters and standards you have to set. So I made some upgrades with the tank itself. I don't necessarily want to dig into it, but what I can do is actually have some boxes here I can show you. So I ended up buying one of these cobalt flat heaters, and I've heard some mixed reviews about these, that they are that when they have actually crapped out, they go all the way up and they kill a lot of stuff in there. So I'm always one to try stuff for myself and seeing if it fails. I don't necessarily like to read a few reviews where somebody says it goes bad, because you don't know if that person's super cynical. You don't know if it's just a bad product. really I'm a strong believer in, you know, for learning stuff on my own, and even if that means some catastrophe or this were to something were to go bad with this, at least I would know that it's not just somebody wanting an actual using issue with the product. So I decided to go for this, and I ended up putting that in the first chamber in the back. And in the middle of the tank, I have an in-tank media kind of holder, I guess you call it. And so in the media holder itself, I kind of was following what the internet said. So I have some filter floss stuff on the top layer. I have some Purigen, which is essentially just something that is in the middle section, and I'm using Chemi Pure Elite in the bottom media. And that's kind of what I guess people do for these tanks. A few people have done that in the BioCube, and it does really well, and you don't have to worry about a lot of the other stuff if you cycle it. And so this, I want to say it's been cycled because I've been running this for a few weeks with the sand and a few other things in there, but it could possibly still need a little bit more time to cycle. There is no fish in there. I put a little bit of fish food in just to kind of start the process there, but I'll have to test it out. But of course we can use chemicals to break down a lot of the ammonia and put fish in here right away. But I think what I'll do is I'll actually wait a couple of weeks to just keep this running and see how it works, and try to figure out the quarantine tank before I actually start doing that. So some typical things I have in my box of wonders here that's kind of been in the mix from the last time I had some basic stuff is I have a lot of the things you'd expect for corals, and I'll just kind of go through the things I have here. So this is Phytoplex. We have some iodine, and I'm just learning now about the different things you can get and what they're used for in terms of for the type of marine animals you're going to have. So this is a Nano Reef Part B, which probably means this one's this is no more algae. I don't know. That's like more of an emergency thing. I thought I had Type A somewhere, but I'm not seeing it, so maybe I ran out. But what really is important, the two that I'm going to use in the next couple of days are, I'm using good old-fashioned Cycle. This is on sale at Petco for like $2, and usually the stuff I think used to be like $15, $20 or something. I don't know. It used to be super expensive, probably because it's expiring. No, it says it expires in September 2022. So just having a sale on Cycle, so I got my hands on that. I also picked up some BioSpa, which is another thing. And I have some other leftover kind of just maintenance stuff in place that I will... Oh, here's another thing I use. So this is a fluval phosphate remover, lab series of stuff. I'll sprinkle a little in there sometimes. What do we got here? pH stable. This is another good thing to kind of stabilize pH. And then, of course, there's like 4 just maintenance stuff. So there's prime, stability, right, which is kind of redundant. All this stuff's really redundant. But replenish, and lastly, I have some clarity here. So I have a few things that do the same thing here, but and of course I have my test kit in there, along with just some test strips here. I can just dip in there, but there's no need to really do that right now until I actually have this running for a little bit. It'd be a waste. Looks like I also have some Lifeguard. I used to, I think I dosed the tank in my past life when I had a fish that got some ick. So I hopefully won't have to use that at all. In addition to that, we'll just go ahead and open this up. So I am running the temporary filter in here, but I will take that out shortly. But I have, again, the intake media system there, and I just have the stock lights. And so that's actually something I want to talk about real quickly. And that is that I know with corals there's a big debate. Do you need extra lights? Will those lights work? And it really depends on the corals, right? Whether or not they need a lot of sunlight or not. And so for now, because I'm not necessarily worrying about the corals the second, I don't have a light. And I actually like the lid on there because it makes this system super quiet. And I don't plan on having a protein skimmer. At least I can't fit one in this tank. I could probably get one to hang off the back. So I may eventually upgrade that stuff and also, you know, some of the other things you can do to purify the water itself. But for now, I'm sticking with the stock lights on this system, and that's just because there's no corals in there, and I'm just looking to cycle it. And I'll get a couple of fish probably in the next couple of weeks. And then at that point, once I have the fish swimming in there and everything looks good, then I'll start thinking about maybe some corals in a month or so once I have this ready to go. But ultimately, based off of what I've seen on YouTube and the internet, if you have a mature tank that's running for about a year, you shouldn't have to worry about the chemistry as much, right? When you're first starting it off, there's nothing in it. There's not really any bacteria besides what I'm putting in there that's keeping the cycle going at this moment. So it's going to be interesting to see the next couple of weeks, which is why I started this channel. I wanted to separate this from my other stuff just because this is specifically for my tank and kind of documenting my experience and the BioCube. And I'm really interested in like this, this quarantine tank down here, which is now green, just to kind of play around with, having a quarantine. I've never really actually had a legitimate quarantine tank for any of my tanks because I've always had a couple of tanks running, and I guess they were just 2 tanks. I didn't really consider them quarantine. I always had fish in them. So again, this remote's interesting. You can change the colors there. You can see it's also mode. So a lot of fun stuff you can do with that if that was a show tank. But for now, it's just going to be my quarantine tank underneath the BioCube itself. So I'm trying to think what else. I do have a lot of other media stuff that I have purchased that I don't really intend on using this second, but I have some, some Fluval ammonia remover. I think there's some carbon in there, some pre-filters, which I bought mistakenly thinking I was going to use those for biomatter. But what's interesting is that hopefully the rock and the sand and then the stuff in the back will keep it clean. One other thing I'm considering doing is putting some Biomax in the first chamber where I took the filter out, and then maybe moving the heater behind the rock or something in the tank. And so that will give me a lot more, beneficial bacteria to make up for the fact that the middle chamber where I took the media balls out, there were plastic ones that came with the tank, are no longer there. So I don't know if that's I know it will help the bacteria growth, but I'm not sure if that's necessarily really necessary for the tank. But what I have read and what I've learned is the more surface area for bacteria to grow, the better for the cycle and the sequence as fish and ammonia accumulates. So I am considering that. And so just like elaborating on that, I was thinking either using Biomax, or I also have this pre-filter stuff, right? And that actually seems like a pretty good thing to put in the first chamber. I can get one of those socks, not a sock, but like, a skinny tube that kind of sits down there, and it will act as, it'll accumulate a lot of the bigger waste that gets put into the system there. So again, this here is just temporarily here. I'm just basically do a water change, so I'm gonna just keep that in there for a little bit until it clears up, and then I'll take it out. And then under the intake, I don't want to remove it, but I have a couple of filter floss layers and some Purigen and the Chemi Pure Elite in there, so I'm hoping that does the job. So that's pretty much it, guys. I look forward to sharing the journey in this tank. It's something that's being set up now, and hopefully will be there for a while. And as I add new stuff in the upcoming weeks, I'll share it with you and my experience and kind of document this stuff and try to bring some science into the whole hobby of nano reef collection. So that's it. I'm Nate, and I look forward to seeing you guys later in the next video.